Amara walked into the Thanksgiving gathering with quiet grace, her heart full of warmth and hope that this year might be different. She had spent weeks helping with preparations, yet when she arrived, her sister-in-law Beezy blocked her path with a forced smile. Without hesitation, Beezy pointed to the veranda and said there was no room for her inside. Amara's smile faded, but she obeyed, carrying her plate outside while laughter echoed from the dining hall. The sound cut deep, each chuckle reminding her she was an outsider in her husband's family, despite years of sacrifice. She sat alone, remembering how much she had given up for Tund and their children. She had once been a woman with dreams, a career full of promise, but she left it behind to raise their family and support his relatives when they were in need. Bills, debts, and even her own inheritance had gone into holding everything together. Yet here she was, pushed aside like she didn't matter. The meal inside grew louder, filled with chatter and cheer, until Beezy's voice rose above them all. A woman with no status should not expect a seat at the table, she mocked, her words sharp and cruel. Amara lowered her gaze, biting her lip to keep tears from falling. What hurt more than the insults was Tun's silence. Her husband, the man she had stood beside for decades, allowed the ridicule to continue without a word of defense. She sat still, masking the storm inside with a calm face, refusing to give her mockers the satisfaction of seeing her break. Then, out of nowhere, a sleek black car pulled up in front of the house. Everyone paused, curiosity filling the air. They assumed it must be a wealthy neighbor stopping by, but their guesses died the moment the chauffeur stepped out and opened the back door. Chief Obinna, one of Lagos's most respected and powerful businessmen, emerged with quiet authority. Shock spread around the table, whispers racing through the crowd. To their astonishment, he didn't glance at them. Instead, he walked straight past the lavishly decorated dining hall and stopped where Amara sat alone. A warm smile lit his face as he greeted her. "My dear friend, you didn't tell me it was today," he said kindly. Gasps rippled through the family, disbelief painted on every face. The woman they had mocked was not forgotten, not invisible. She was the reason a man of such influence had arrived, and in that moment, every cruel laugh turned into stunned silence. Amara remembers how she sacrificed her own career to support her husband, Tund, and his relatives. There was a time when she had a promising future, a job she loved, and dreams she wanted to chase, but she put it all aside to build her family's life. She worked quietly in the background, handling bills when money was short, making sure the children never lacked anything, and carrying burdens no one else wanted to face. When Tund's siblings struggled, she was the one who stepped in, offering not just her time but her own savings. Every decision she made was for the family, even when it meant losing herself. She had once been given an inheritance from her late parents, a safety net that could have secured her future, but she let it go without hesitation. That money went into keeping their home, paying debts, and covering school fees. She never complained, never reminded anyone of what she had given, because she believed love meant sacrifice. Her devotion was steady, her patience endless, and she thought her loyalty would always be valued. Yet now, sitting alone on the veranda while others laughed inside, she felt the sting of being discarded. Her heart ached as she watched them pass plates of food, share stories, and smile as though she didn't exist. She thought of the nights she stayed awake sewing clothes to save money, the mornings she skipped meals so her children could eat, the times she went without so the family could have more. Still, the same people who had benefited from her efforts now treated her as if she had never contributed anything. What hurt the most was that Tund, the man she once believed was her partner in every struggle, allowed it all to happen. He knew how much she had given up, how much of her life had been poured into supporting him, yet he sat in silence, letting others humiliate her. Amara's chest tightened, not from anger alone, but from the deep sadness of realizing that all her sacrifices seemed invisible to the very people she had protected and uplifted. In that moment, she wondered how love and loyalty could be forgotten so easily. She felt like a shadow, a woman who had given everything and received nothing in return. Though she stayed quiet, her pain was louder than any insult thrown at her, a silent reminder of how cruel it is to be treated like a stranger in the family she had built with her own hands. A woman with no status shouldn't expect a seat at the table. The words cut through the air like a knife as Beezy's mocking voice rose above the cheerful chatter. Laughter followed, sharp and cruel. as if her humiliation was a form of entertainment. Amara sat frozen, her heart pounding in her chest, but her face remained calm. She felt every eye glance at her with a mix of ridicule and satisfaction, as though they all agreed she didn't belong. She looked at her husband, hoping for even the smallest defense, but Tund kept his head down, chewing his food as if nothing had happened. That silence hurt more than his sister's insult. The man she had stood by for years, the man whose battles she had fought, couldn't find the courage to speak up for her. It felt like a betrayal wrapped in indifference, a wound deeper than any insult could cause. Inside, her spirit trembled, but on the outside, she forced herself to remain steady. She swallowed the lump in her throat, blinking back tears that begged to fall. She wouldn't let them see her break, not when they were waiting to laugh at her pain. She lifted her cup of water and sipped slowly, acting as though the words meant nothing, though every drop felt heavy on her tongue. The meal went on, filled with chatter and clinking cutlery, but Amara's world felt painfully quiet. Her thoughts echoed louder than the noise around her. She remembered times when she had opened her doors to these same relatives, feeding them when they had nothing, clothing their children when they were in need. Now they sat comfortably inside while she remained outside, mocked for being the very person who had helped keep them standing. Her chest tightened as she realized how quickly people forget the hands that once lifted them. Every laugh in the room felt like another stone thrown at her dignity. Yet she sat upright, her eyes steady, her pride intact. She knew breaking down would only give them more power. So she masked her hurt with silence, choosing dignity over despair. In that quiet moment, Amara's strength became invisible armor. They saw a woman they thought was weak, but inside, she was holding back storms that could have drowned them all. Though mocked and dismissed, she refused to let their cruelty define her worth. A black luxury car pulls into the driveway, its polished body shining under the afternoon sun. Conversations around the table pause, forks and spoons hang midair, and curious eyes turn toward the sound of the engine. The family assumes it must be another rich neighbor passing by, someone who belongs to the world of wealth and power that none of them truly know. Whispers ripple across the room, each person guessing who it could be, excitement mixing with confusion. The chauffeur steps out in a crisp uniform and moves swiftly to the back door, his movements sharp and respectful. With a smooth pull, the car door opens and silence sweeps over the gathering. Out steps a tall, distinguished man with an air of authority that cannot be ignored. His presence alone shifts the atmosphere, his calm confidence commanding respect without a word. The family gasps as recognition dawns. This is Chief Obinna, a name that carries weight in every corner of Lagos, a man celebrated for his fortune and admired for his generosity. Mouths drop, eyes widen, and the chatter that once mocked Amara vanishes in an instant. They cannot believe that someone of his stature is standing in front of their home. For a moment, the house feels too small to hold the greatness of his presence. Chairs scrape against the floor as some rise to their feet, unsure of whether to bow or clap or remain still. The same people who moments ago laughed at Amara now find their voices caught in their throats, too stunned to speak. Chief Obinna adjusts his suit, glances at the lavishly decorated dining area, and begins walking with steady steps. Each movement feels deliberate, his polished shoes clicking softly against the ground. The family expects him to head toward the grand table filled with food and chatter, but instead his eyes remain fixed on one direction. He passes the crowd of relatives without a single nod, ignoring their forced smiles and awkward greetings. Then, to everyone's shock, his steps carry him straight to the veranda, where Amara sits quietly, still holding her cup of water. Gasps echo again as they watch the powerful man smile warmly at her, his voice gentle and familiar as he greets her. In that moment, the balance of the gathering shifts, and every mocking laugh dies in silence. The guest they all admire has come not for them, but for the woman they pushed aside. Chief Obinna walks straight past the decorated dining table and heads to the veranda. The family watches in disbelief as he ignores the golden plates, the roasted turkey, and the carefully arranged centerpieces that had been meant to impress visitors. Every pair of eyes follows him, expecting him to take the seat of honor at the head of the table, but instead his steps remain steady, leading him outside to where Amara sits quietly. He stops before her with a gentle smile, his voice warm and filled with affection. "My dear friend, you didn't tell me it was today," he says, reaching out his hand as though greeting someone he has known for years. Amara rises slowly, her face calm yet touched with a hint of surprise. She returns his greeting with quiet respect, not boastful, not showing off, just the same humble woman she has always been. Shock spreads across the room like a wave. Jaws drop, spoons fall, and the same people who had mocked her only moments earlier now stare in confusion. Whispers fly back and forth, each relative desperate to understand how this woman they treated as unworthy could possibly know one of the most influential men in Lagos. They remember their cruel laughter, their careless insults, and suddenly feel the sting of their own arrogance. Tun shifts uncomfortably in his chair, his pride crumbling as his wife is addressed with honor by a man of such stature. Beezy's smirk fades, replaced by disbelief that her taunts have been silenced by a single moment. The relatives who had once turned their backs on Amara now lean forward, hoping to catch any hint of the truth, but Chief Obinna gives them none of his attention. His entire focus rests on Amara, as though no one else matters. The weight of his presence is undeniable, and the silence it brings feels heavier than the mockery that had filled the air earlier. The family is left stunned, their questions unanswered, their pride shattered. Amara remains composed, her head held high, yet her humility shines even brighter in that moment. She does not gloat, she does not remind them of their cruelty. She simply stands beside a man whose respect for her speaks louder than any defense she could have given. And with just a few words, everything changes. Amara is no longer the forgotten outsider, but the woman everyone suddenly wishes they had treated differently. Tund and his relatives scramble to stand, suddenly respectful, their earlier arrogance vanishing in an instant. Chairs scrape loudly against the floor as they rush to their feet, trying to correct their mistake. The same mouths that mocked now twist into forced smiles, their voices shaky as they stumble over words of welcome. Plates are pushed aside, hands stretch out in eager gestures, and they beg Chief Obinna to join them at the grand table inside, desperate to cover their shame with politeness. But Chief Obinna does not even glance at the glittering table spread with food and wine. Instead, his calm eyes remain fixed on Amara, who stands quietly, still processing the sudden shift. When they insist again, his voice cuts through their chatter with steady authority. "No," he says firmly. "I will sit here. She is the only reason I am here." The weight of those words settles like a heavy stone in the room. Every relative feels it. Every mocking laugh they once threw at Amara, now echoing back in their minds as regret. Awkward silence falls, broken only by the shuffling of feet and nervous coughs. The pride that once filled the house is replaced with fear, each person realizing they had ridiculed the very woman this powerful man came to honor. Tun's face burns with embarrassment, his eyes darting between his wife and the guest. He wants to speak, to explain, but no words come. He knows his silence earlier has condemned him more than anything else. Chief Obinna pulls out a chair beside Amara on the veranda, lowering himself without hesitation. The sight alone shakes the family to their core. A man of such wealth and influence, choosing to sit outside instead of enjoying the luxurious space they had prepared, sends a message sharper than any scolding could deliver. His presence beside Amara turns the simple veranda into the most important place in the house. The relatives exchange nervous glances, their earlier confidence gone. They fumble for excuses, but none can erase what they have done. The shame is too fresh, the lesson too clear. Amara sits beside Chief Obinna, her calmness unshaken, while the family struggles to hide their panic. The woman they dismissed has become the center of honor, and nothing they do can change the truth revealed before their eyes. Years ago, Amara had helped Chief Obinna's late wife during a medical crisis, never expecting anything in return. It was a stormy night, and most people had been too afraid to step out, but Amara rushed to their aid without thinking twice. She stayed by the woman's side, calming her, making sure she got the care she needed until help arrived. She didn't do it for recognition, she didn't do it for reward. She did it because kindness was part of her nature. That simple act of compassion left a lasting mark on Chief Obinna's heart. From that day forward, he had seen Amara as more than an acquaintance. To him, she became part of his extended family, someone he respected deeply. But Amara never spoke of it, not even to Tund or his relatives. She never bragged, never mentioned her quiet bond with one of the most influential men in Lagos. Her humility kept the secret safe, even when people around her dismissed her as unimportant. She knew real value didn't come from boasting, it came from actions. Now, on this Thanksgiving, Chief Obina's presence was more than just a visit. It was a statement, a recognition of the woman who had given so much without asking for anything in return. As he sat beside her, the memories of that night were alive in his heart. He looked at her not as someone to pity, but as someone worthy of the highest honor. The family, still stunned, shifted uneasily, trying to process what they were witnessing. How could the woman they treated as a burden be the same person whose selflessness had earned the respect of such a powerful man? The answer was clear. They had never truly seen her worth. Every mocking word they had thrown now felt like poison in their mouths. Amara, however, remained composed. She didn't reveal the story. She didn't remind them of her good deed. She simply sat with quiet dignity, while Chief Obina's actions spoke louder than any words could. To the world, this day might have looked like a simple holiday gathering, but to those present, it was a revelation. The truth of Amara's heart had come into the light, and for the first time, everyone else was forced to see what Chief Obina had known for years, that her value was beyond measure. Chief Obina announces he is donating a new foundation in Amara's name to support widows and struggling mothers. His deep voice carries across the gathering, silencing every whisper. He explains how he has watched her live with humility, how he has seen her heart for others, and how her quiet sacrifices inspired him to create something that would help countless women in need. His words turn what was once a moment of shame for her into a celebration of her worth. The family listens in shock, their eyes darting between Amara and the powerful man beside her. None of them can believe that the woman they forced to sit outside is now being honored in such a public and powerful way. The very space they treated as unworthy has become the center of attention. And Amara is the reason. As he continues speaking, the relatives exchange nervous glances, realizing that every insult they had thrown at her now looks like foolishness. Then Chief Obina reaches into his briefcase and pulls out a sealed document. He places it gently in Amara's hands, telling her she has also been appointed to the board of his company. Gasps rise from every corner of the room, some from shock, some from envy, and others from regret. The weight of that paper represents more than wealth. It represents authority, respect, and recognition. Amara, once dismissed as powerless, is now lifted into a position that none of them could have imagined. Her hands tremble slightly as she accepts the document, but her face remains calm. She doesn't smile proudly or flaunt her new status. Instead, she bows her head with gratitude, showing the same humility that had brought her to this moment. The family, however, cannot hide their emotions. Beezy's face pales, her earlier arrogance replaced with silent shame. Tund looks down at the floor, knowing his silence during her humiliation has become his greatest failure. The atmosphere shifts completely. Moments ago, Amara was invisible, treated as though she had no place among them. Now, her name carries weight strong enough to silence every voice in the room. She doesn't need to say a word. Chief Obina's announcement has already spoken for her. In an instant, the woman they mocked becomes the one everyone wishes they had honored from the start. Those who mocked her moments ago now try to apologize. Their voices, once loud with laughter, now stumble over broken words of regret. Some reach out with nervous smiles. Others mumble excuses about misunderstanding, but none of it can hide the guilt written on their faces. The same people who pushed her aside now crowd around her, desperate to fix what they shattered in only a few cruel minutes. Tund lowers his head, shame burning across his face as he realizes the weight of his silence. He remembers every moment when Beezy's harsh words cut into his wife, every time he could have spoken up but chose to remain quiet. Now he stands exposed, not by anyone's accusation, but by his own conscience. His wife, the woman who gave everything for his family, has been honored before his very eyes while he stood still and let her be humiliated. The regret in his chest is heavier than stone. Amara looks at them all, her eyes calm, her voice steady. She does not shout, she does not curse, she does not demand repayment for the years of sacrifice they ignored. Instead, she speaks a single sentence that pierces deeper than any anger could. Respect should not come after shame. Her words hang in the air, echoing louder than the clinking plates and nervous footsteps. They are not just words, they are truth, a reminder that honor given too late is no honor at all. The family shifts uncomfortably, unable to meet her gaze. Beezy, who once led the laughter, now looks down at her plate, her arrogance gone. Cousins and relatives who joined in the mockery fidget with their hands, wishing they could erase their actions. Even Tund cannot lift his eyes to face her. The weight of her calm response crushes them more than anger ever could. Amara does not linger on their regret. She knows their apologies are born from fear and exposure, not from genuine love. She sits tall, her dignity intact, no longer the woman they dismissed as unworthy. The power of her silence and the strength of her words leave them all in uneasy stillness. They now understand the cost of their cruelty. But the lesson has come too late, because respect given after humiliation will never erase the pain of being treated like nothing. Chief Obinna raises a toast to Amara, declaring her the true woman of honor. The clinking of glasses echoes through the hall, yet the weight of his words is heavier than any sound. The same family who moments earlier looked down on her now sit frozen, their pride crushed by the truth revealed before their very eyes. Faces that once carried arrogance are now painted with shame, their voices silenced in the presence of the woman they mocked. Amara, once asked to stand at the edge of the gathering, now becomes the very heart of it. She does not gloat, she does not taunt, she simply carries herself with quiet dignity, her presence louder than any insult ever thrown at her. The atmosphere shifts completely. All eyes are drawn to her, not with ridicule but with admiration. The same admiration they once refused to give. Tund sits uneasily, struggling with the guilt of failing his wife when she needed him most, but even he cannot deny the strength she now radiates. Amara's calm smile says everything. She has no need for revenge, for the truth itself has delivered her justice. Chief Obinna's toast is not just for her, but for every woman who has been cast aside, reminding all that respect belongs not to the loudest, but to the one who endures in silence and rises when the time is right. The hall glows with her victory, though not a victory of wealth or titles, but one of honor and grace. Every guest can feel it. Amara has shifted the story forever. She is no longer the overlooked wife. She is the symbol of quiet power that cannot be erased. And as the gathering continues in awkward silence, one thought lingers in every mind. They had underestimated her, and now they can never forget her. Final viral hook. Never underestimate the quiet one they push aside. Sometimes, the guest arrives for her. Hi, besties 2 hearts, thank you so much for watching till the very end. Cherry Blossom Sparkles, please don't forget to like, thumbs up, drop a sweet comment, speech balloon, and subscribe bell for more inspiring stories. Bye. Waving hand 2 hearts.